from last week. That's the IMF program to Liberia. And we're going to be zeroing on the Central Bank of Liberia, especially the printing of the new money. So we see someone from Liberia joining us because it's dark there. So for today's show, we're going to be discussing that. I have with me to discuss this topic, Mr. Depu Zuo, who's joining us from Dallas, Texas. Mr. Zuo, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be back again this Saturday, and also Merry Christmas to our listeners out there.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. William King joining us from Southern California. Mr. King, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis, for having me. Today I will be co-hosting with Dennis. So, plenty of talking. Y'all can just shoot the rock at me because I will mute you. But glad to be here. Thanks for everyone for joining me. Merry Christmas. Joining Focus on Liberia. Thank you.
Again, this is Mr. Alice Chuchu Jones. Mr. Jones, welcome to the Business and Economic Forum. By the way, Mr. June is the editor of the forum. Mr. June, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
I just got a promotion. I appreciate it. Thank you. And then happy holidays to all our good people in the U.S. and in Liberia. And congratulations to Donald Trump on the path to green card for Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. And joining us for the second time in 2 weeks, Mr. Samuel P. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much. I wish to extend my heartfelt greetings, Yuletide greetings to the people, Liberians all over the world. I wish you all season's greetings, good health, long life, and prosperity.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And he's joining us also from Dallas, Texas. There's a challenge with some lighting situation right there. Mr. Thomas Red. Thomas, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Yeah. Thank you, Dennis. I've been having some challenges, but I remain grateful that I can find a space to be available. To my colleagues, and the panelists, I say, it's an honor being available again. For our people around the world, I say we have an opportunity to make our country better once we put our act together. Thank you.
Thank you. And because you are joining us for the first time on the Business and Economic Forum, Mr. Ray, I want you to use just a few words to tell us a little bit about yourself and our audience.
Okay, my name is Thomas Basseret. I am a former economist from the Central Bank of Liberia, specifically the research department and head of the real sector. I am also a former economist from the West African Monetary Institute in Accra, Ghana. I'm presently in America pursuing other objectives.
That's the voice of Mr. Thomas Basseret. Mr. Ray, welcome to Focus on Liberia. And who the better person to discuss the topic tonight than someone who is from the Central Bank of Liberia, where we have our money.
Well, we have our money. Thank you.
Now, before we start the show tonight, normally we have our water cooler moment. And for this water cooler moment, let me pass it on to my co-host, Mr. William King, to just break the ice.
Yeah, gentlemen, thank you. Thomas, it's a pleasure to have you on. Definitely great. So for our watercolor movement, basically it's the passing of the pathway for permanent citizenship for, I think, 4,000 plus Liberians who are here in the United States of America. The Bible says a dream defers makes the heart sick. And so today is a very rejoiceful day. We thank God. Actually, there's a week, and I know people have a very good Christmas because a lot of the cloud has been lifted of uncertainty, and our Liberian fellow man can now go ahead and pursue the American dream. it goes without saying, as you all know, we already remit money to Liberia, so we're not going to get into that. But the fact that they will be able to better the status here, make them relax a little bit, less anxiety. So that's definitely a Christmas scheme early this time around. This is a non-political show, but definitely want to thank the U.S. Congress and President Donald Trump for putting his signature on that paper. What do you think? Samuel, what do you think? Thoughts? Who want to go first, actually?
Yeah. Well, I'm very, 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 very happy. I don't have any immediate relatives that would be affected by this. But for my fellow Liberians, to gain legal status in this country, to enjoy the benefits that I have enjoyed, to raise my kids, to give them a good education, and to enjoy the benefits of the greatest country on the planet, I think it's a good thing. I also want us to be very, very clear about the possibilities. Liberians in the diaspora are the most educated, the wealthiest, the healthiest, and the most productive Liberians on the planet. And not only, it's not because we're special, it's because we've been given the opportunities in this great country, really, So I just hope and pray that we can transfer the democracy, the some of the economic architecture here. We cannot make Liberia like America, but we can certainly, make Liberia, in our own image, so that we can coexist there peacefully, that we can grow, we can prosper, and we can also have an impact on the global economy. We can produce goods and services, we can trade, and we can make a lot of progress. And we can sustainability. I was one of the architects of the Sustainable Development Goals, and those goals have to be integrated into the development agenda of Liberia. Okay, and those 17 goals are global goals, but we can integrate them, like I said, into our own national development agenda to make it happen for our country. I mean, there's no reason why Liberia should be at only right now. I think we are like about 4.450 on the Human Development Index, whereas countries like Ghana, pushing to almost the 600. Ghana is a middle income country. We are the second lowest in terms of a Human Development Index in the region. We're just a little higher than Sierra Leone. We have the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, and before we go, I think it's important for us to understand that we have the people, the human capacity, all over the world and in Liberia. All we need to do is to cooperate, to coexist, and share prosperity. That's all. That's all we need.
Thank you, Mr. Zuo. Your reaction to the news of DED?
Thank you. For me, I think I was once on the TPS, and I know why it is to always be in anxiety when the year is about to end and you're thinking about what next. Or when you go to work and you're working, all of a sudden they walk to you and tell you, say, look, your document is not renewed, or you need to go home. So, I just imagine that other years when I was here back then, but I know that it's very much important that finally the work that was started down the line has yielded result today. Liberians in the United States who've been here, even those who came during the Ebola, are going to receive the same status as those who've been here from 1990. Imagine those who came here in the 90s, more than 25, 30 years living here just without status. It's something that I would call the courageous Liberians I ever seen. So the next thing that there is the economic benefit of this identical status is very much important for the country, Liberia. We know that right now the economy is down and it's in this bad shape. To have deported over 4,000 people going to Liberia, the first thing is that there won't have been any accommodation or space for the people. If those who are living there cannot get a job, it will be difficult for people who already rooted and working to be transferred to a location that does not even have effective communication and electricity as well. So it's a good opportunity. And like that are here have been very helpful to the parents and family member back home. And now with status, I know that there will be persistence and consistent income flow for them to help their people to still fuel the Liberian economy to ensure that the remittances will increase. And I want to use this opportunity to encourage Liberians who today, whatever we've prayed for, we fought for, advocated for, is about time to make use of it, positive use of it. Meaning that it's time now for people to access student loan, other opportunity to go to school and increase, their income, build their capacity for the better future of this country, United States, and also the better future of Liberia. And children who were born here by DED parents, it's about time now that they can be united with their family. So it's a good opportunity. I would think that we should also use the opportunity now to see how best to invest instead of just transferring money for food, investment now into real investment capital. We can do capital pool. Now you get a green card. Those who live in the same community are doing the Liberian susu. I know some people have susu in America here. You now need to do investment, serious investment in this town now, in this country to make major impact in Liberia, also in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ray?
Yeah, Dennis, thank you. Personally, I see myself as a beneficiary of President Trump's signature. And I want to say thank you to him. I have a sister who has been in the United States for rack of ages since 2001. And she and I just had a discussion last week on her fears and all of that, going home, doing this and all of that. President Trump's signature has actually resolved her problems. And Liberians around the world should be grateful on this count that all of them, everybody can begin to pursue the American dream. Not only adults, but our children can also pursue the American dream, so that at the end of the day, all of us see ourselves as competing in this country. Like Depo said, in my own judgment also, this is expected to have some effect on our own economy at home. The reason being that the multiple excuses and challenges our people have, those excuses and challenges practically don't exist again. So their own attention, their own investment in Liberia should begin to increase. While it is expected to increase, it also benefits all of us at the same time, because they're going to create employment opportunities for everybody back home. I want to say thank you to President Trump. I want to say thank you to the various Liberian communities that pursue this thing to this level. God bless all of them. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Jones, I know there's plenty of things to go around.
Yeah.
So have tomorrow we're going to be hosting some of those who have been working assiduously for this effort, appearing on Focus on Liberia to talk about that. So thanks to President Trump. Others are saying thanks to President Weah, under whose administration this has come to pass.
We're taking. Hey, the man need all the help he can get. In his success, we'll take it. Let him take it.
I think we should thank Obama for, of course, not letting this bill pass and sign into law. So since we're going to be thanking Weah, let's just add Obama to that picture, because I think it was an embarrassment that for 8 years, such a important bill, especially when both houses at the time were controlled by the Democrats. So, but Trump did an excellent job, to sign this into law, and I think Liberians need to be grateful, just like some of the things that George Bush did for Africa, and particularly Liberia. But we tend to have a blind loyalty for one party or another, just like we do in Liberia, and we don't look at the facts, we don't look at the actual figures. So again, congratulations also to Eula. I think Eula did an excellent job. Yeah.
Yeah, Alex, I know this thing about Obama and Trump. You know how bills are passed. More or less, the president have little or not much to do with it. People in the house, okay, you have is a give and take. Someone say lawmaking is like sausage making. People have to give, and we present to you the inside scoop of the whole thing tomorrow. But stop this Obama and Trump comparison on this bill.
Yes, but
Well,
I will come.
no.
I have a view on that. I think I agree with Ellis. To be very frank, for me,
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry that the Republicans are always been there. They don't have to wait for anything. They always been there. During a Republican administration, they won't delay in making decisions on Liberia. But we Liberians are more passionate about Democrat, but Democratic leaders will always drag their feet in making decisions on Liberia. Remember in this country when everyone was making telephone call and Democrats were in power for Liberian war, and the decision that George Bush made for Taylor to leave was just in split second. I
Right.
believe that if we had Republican in power at the time in 1990, that thing would have just gone down immediately. So that's I think I'm in line with Alex. That's my view. I always give to Liberia.
Politics is more complicated than that, and I don't want us to delve into that. But I've done
Okay,
some
it's
like
a
that.
wonderful movement. Let's go to our issue, but I think that's my view too.
Thank you, Mr. Debo.
But George Bush just said, he didn't use a meeting by saying
Well-
Mr. Taylor gave peace a chance. Taylor was leaving. And that was it.
All right.
Well, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, you enough of that Obama-Trump comparison on this something. We can have a separate discussion on that.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Let's go into today's topic about IMF. Last week, we started this discussion, and two things came up, and we started discussing them, and they became so exciting. The first thing was Mr. Jackson. He's very tough on the previous government, the Ellen administration compared to the Weir administration when it comes to the economics. So there's this Ellen economics and this Weir economics. So Mr. Jackson, Ellen has, and his administration, they have what he said, cannibalized the economy. So, so Mr. Jackson, I want us to begin from there just for 5 minutes, but also compare the Ellen economics to the Weir economics. You go first.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. There can be no person on the earth that can say categorically that Ellen did not do anything for Liberia, because I'll be lying to you. My foundational argument is that Ellen had the opportunity, with the resources and the commitment and the support of the international system, together with the cooperation of the Liberian people, have done significantly much more. It's like, your father is a millionaire. He provides you a small bedroom house, and he puts about 4 beds in that one bedroom. You eat every day. You have a bathroom to go to. You have a very small space, and you have a cramped life. But this is an individual with significant amount of resources that could give you a 5-bedroom house with desk, study, and what have you. And instead of sending you to a good private school where you have access to great education, he sends you to a public school. So, I mean, one of those conditions, that is the minimalist approach to economic development. Okay? I'm looking at sustainable development. The amount of resources that Liberia got, if you look at from 2006 to 2017, Liberia received from the OECD nations, the 34 largest economies in the world. Liberia received almost $10 billion, direct and indirect aid. If you look at how that money was apportioned, a significant amount of that money went to the oil mill and UN-related activities in the country. What that did for the Liberian economy was to increase aggregate demand. So you have purchasing power. When you increase aggregate demand, then the supply flows there. Okay, when the supply flows into that, you create jobs. Okay, and you're creating an artificial economy, because bear in mind, the state of unmade in Liberia is finite. It was clear that at some point in time, the aggregate demand that OME came with and human-related activity will go. So what should have been happening is to see how to internalize the domestic economy, to create a domestic economy that was self-sustaining, that the aggregate demand will be based upon domestic capital formation, where we will have income, where we will have the circular flow and acceleration of money and all of that. So when OME leave, there will not be this big hole that was left within this economy. So let me give you an example now.
Yeah, no, I get it. Let's
So 5 minutes. The 5 minutes not over yet, though.
the 5 minutes not for you alone, it's for everybody.
Okay.
So let me let you can fix your camera a little bit. I'm coming to you because you were
right.
Ellen was in power. So, do you agree with Mr. Jackson?
Well, for me, I continue to say that the performance of Madam Salif as president of our country was an opportunity that was exploited to our benefit. What I'm saying is that under Madam Salif, when Madam Salif took over the country, the growth was non-existent. When you look at growth figures, non-existent almost. But after she took over, with the support of all of our friends across this world, the economy began to pick up. And I have some information on that. I mean, all of us know it, that the whole world and everybody said Liberia was a success story. We experienced growth. Even when they knelt down 2007, 2008, we still have some benefit in terms of growth in our economy. So when somebody comes out to say that was the worst, it's not my first time hearing it. Personally, for me, I think Madam Salif did her real best for this country, and it was a responsibility of all of us to build on it, especially at this time. She didn't leave a crippled economy. Madam Salif didn't leave a crippled economy. She left behind an economy that we had to build on. So the argument is not that within the space of 2 years, we destroy the economy. No. For me, Madam Salif left an economy that was well strengthened, that was intact, and it was the responsibility of any succeeding administration to improve upon it. Whether it was unreal, I mean, it was just obvious. It happens in other countries around the world where you have peacekeepers supporting the domestic economy. So they supported our economy in that sense. So after they were leaving, what happens to us? When you decide to take on when you decide to become head of state, when you decide to take on the administration of the country, all of that should be calculated. Dennis, my position here is that Madam Salif did her best. She left an economy intact that we had to continue to grow. Thank you.
All right. Let me go back to William to continue on this topic. First, our disclaimer.
Don't you want me to make an import?
No, before you come, William is my co-host, so he will continue. You after William, then you can go before Alex. William?
Yes, thank you everyone for joining this Focus on Liberia. Just want to put out there our disclaimer for Focus on Liberia. The content is for informational purpose only. You should not construe any such information or other materials as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on our site or media constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Focus on Liberia, any third-party service provider, to buy or sell any securities or other financial instrument in this or in any other jurisdiction in which such solicitation or offer would be unlawful under the security laws of such jurisdiction. Thank you, Dennis.
And we want to also say that whatever views expressed on this network is solely the view of our panelists and not that of the management of Focus on Liberia. Mr. Deposu, you listen to the two economists. What sayest thou on the economy versus the we are economy?
The first thing is that I don't want it to appear as any economy versus we are economy. I want us to look at it more like the growth for Liberian economy, because realistically, if you look at it, it's from the administrative point of view, is it any administration and we as administration. But one thing that I just need to tell Mr. Jackson is that in as much as he's trying to look at the aid from our partners, what he needs to take into consideration is that growth in the economy has so many, in fact, 5 major things to spur growth. You need to have, in terms of compatible institutions, you need to have a saving and investment accumulation. You must also have a skill in human capacity. And you know that Madam Salif inherited the administration, that you are aware that there were huge capacity gap in terms of manpower to even work in the civil service agency. And you can remember fully well she had to right size and downsize. There were people employed but didn't have the capacity. The next thing was to build human capacity. You are aware that the University of Liberia even said not offering, a bachelor degree that were very capable to work outside. In the end, they supported the educational sector, health sector. In fact, you will note that in 2006, life expectancy was around 32 to 47%. And in the end, Madam Salif, before she left, around 56. Those are all indicators that indeed life was far better than anything. Besides that, the income of civil servant, Madam Salif told me when civil servant were making $15 US dollar a month. How can you take home $15 US dollar when your bag of rice is actually $21? And before she left, people were making the minimum sweeper, were making $110 US. So I don't know what's the yardstick that people keep saying that Madam Salif economy and that of President we are. As Mr. Ray said, the institution were built and strengthened with enough manpower. The best thing that should have been done by this current administration is to say, to use the existing capacity they met on ground to see how best to extend on what they have met on ground. Instead of saying, let's break it and build it on our own. And this kind of a mentality that what actually caused the problem we found today. The learning curve became very steeper and challenging. If you dismiss from ministers straight to directors in any entity, what you've done now, the growth compatibility institution you have, you've already broken it. You change minister from minister to director. There's no institutional memory. There's no technician to actually make it to grow. So that's one of the reasons why we have to accept responsibility and say, how do we change the tide to make sure that we start a growth? So go back and see how best we can look at the technicians that are qualified to do the work. And besides that, some of the indicators that we have right now in terms of performance in public sector is clear that not many officials. It's good that the president and his team are acknowledging that there are some ministers, they need to reshuffle the team, as he said in his speech, so that there can be an opportunity for the country to pick up. You cannot tell me that you can compare Madam Salif administration with that of President Weah administration in terms of economic growth. No, the growth is decreasing, it's not increasing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We before we go on, let's make this thing a little bit more interactive, because sometimes what happens is some of our listeners online, they're kind of commenting on certain things and we don't get to them until way at the very end. So this time I want to just read something here. Someone says, George P. Lobo, he says negative 95% GDP in 2006. By 2012, the economic was growing at 7.5%. and was projected to grow at 8%. He said after the Ebola outbreak of 2013, the economy grew at 3.2 GDP up to the time Weah took over. So that's what we have. Someone is saying that. And then another someone is saying this to this Dr. Jackson. Someone's saying, he said, people like Samuel Jackson are somewhat Liberia problem. Because you live in the US, that doesn't mean you are better than people in Liberia. So right now, that's kind of what's trending. Anyone, I know we covered the second part with the GDP. We both admit that there was something there. And so we need to build on that going forward. And of course, we've gone downwards a little bit. But because someone said something, Dr. Jackson, you got 1 minute if you want to respond, or if you respond later to what that comment was.
Open. I'll call you back later. I'm on the Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much. Okay, I'm an empiricist. Anything I say, I know the numbers. So I will speak of the numbers. I'm not going to speak on emotion.
Yeah.
there was a contraction of 90% of GDP, not by 2006, but by 2003. Okay. And when you have peace in a country and you establish peace, I mean, like security, there's something in the economics we call an automaticity of growth. Ellen did not design an economic strategy that will propel and sustain growth, but rather, when people returned home and started to rebuild their lives, that's when you saw economic growth started to go up. When people started to build their homes, people started to purchase. And most of that purchase was 90% driven by what? Imports. So taxes and international trade, that was a major part of the budgetary income in terms of the revenues that came into the country. If you look at the Human Development Index, the Human Development Index has been very flat from 2006 to the end of 2017. When Ellen left, the Human Development Index was 0.435. Okay, look at the diversification of output. We're still depending upon two primary commodity exports. Ellen's economic strategy did not take into account the diversification of output. So we were still victims to the vagaries of what? The exogenous factors. When iron ore prices went down and rubber prices went down, what happens? Revenues went down. And then Mr. Lobo is saying that there was economic growth of 3%, or if there was a contraction of the economy in 2014, and economic growth has not surpassed 1% since 2014. In fact,
Okay.
In fact, we're looking at negative multiplier. Okay.
Okay, wait. So remember now, and then we're gonna go to Alex. Alex, hold on 1 second. Right?
See, the thing is, you have to give an opportunity to really.
Oh, okay.
There is no
data.
The growth, no. The growth. Our point of correction to say that there haven't been growth since 2014. No, it was negative 2015 and pick up to 2018. And I mean 2017 or 3.2. And that's the data that out of what can speak to.
Would you please cite which can you and then we'll finish the program. No. Please cite me the page, the number.
It is the IMF.
Hold on a second. Because I know the average growth rate between 2016 and 2018 was 0.7%, maximum 1%. But then let's look at the composition of that growth. That growth was mostly jobless growth. It was jobless growth because if you look at the sectors that were producing the magnitude of GDP, increase in GDP, the mining and painting sector produced in 2012, according to your own labor statistics written by Mrs. Jua. Mrs. Jua signed a document in 2012, a report that said in 2012, the mining and painting sector produced only 800 jobs. The pimping industry produced 900 jobs. And in fact, what happened from 2006 until the end of 2017, the public sector wage bill, public sector employment grew significantly more than private sector employment. So what happened was the wage bill, the return expenditure grew with the expansion of revenues. More effort to invest more money in infrastructure. So public sector investment in the fiscal space was constricted because Ellen increased the wage bill.
Mr. Jackson has been given too much time than the other people. Let me
Let me just say this. The mean thing. Therefore, will come to you. Alex will come to you. Wait. Gentlemen, we're going to come because now we're getting into this, right?
Yeah.
I think overall, the main focus here of what we're trying to get out is that peace. The peace and the desire for Liberians to go back home was an opportunity that was afforded to us, and that reflected in the economic jump, in the economic activities, GDP, and all those different things. And we also know that with the UN and everything like that added also. So there's a lot of things going on in our country. There's a lot of activity, a lot of maybe money going around, circulating, and so forth. Maybe not the best, but if something was going on. So the main thing is that, yes, there were some that were going up, some that were going down. She hired more people to run the government. People wanted to be employed. Things were happening. So the main thing that I want to get to, Depu, maybe you can jump in, or Alex, after you, then Alex, is that that momentum that was there, what were maybe some of the issues that prevented us maybe to continue with that momentum, even if it was a 0.02% growth or 0.4, but what was some of the impediments that prevented us from kind of riding or continue to build on that? Depu, and then after you, Alex. So Alex, hold your thought. Okay, we're going to come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think that one of the things that you're looking at, even though Mr. Jackson is trying to attribute our growth to only the public sector, is that there's issue of capacity constraint in the public sector. And what is important, just from performance in terms of the civil servant as you're talking about, there were a lot of hiring down without a requisite skill and increasing the labor force in the public sector when there's no additional return on that. That also became a constraint for this current government. Besides that, as you're looking at it, there are so many sectors, especially like the rubber sector, that is more one of the major revenue generation area. Focus has not been given to that area, especially agriculture as a whole. Even if you look at the money that Mr. Jackson is talking about, with the agreement as we speak right now, there haven't been the negotiation. These companies, there should have been a review of their MDA. And this current administration should have actually put in time to look at some of the agreement, even in the forest sector. What are some of the reviews that they have done? But because of the lack of capacity or lack of manpower to do all of these things, they are utterly dragged down, and therefore they also decrease the revenue generation capacity. So these are things that are realistic that we need to be looking at. How do you look at this sector and encourage investors, companies that are already in there? We look at the oil palm industry. Up to the time Eddie left, oil palm have become one of the major sources of our revenue for Liberia. How can government actually look at these things, Golden Vernier, the rest of it? These companies are closing down. We ensure that there should be a negotiation with this company and see how best can they retain their staff and provide some incentive for them to keep their people running the system. These are some of the things. Basically, require.
Depu, slow down. So what are you saying is that you have what? You have a mixed match workers. So you have people there, but they don't have the right skills. Is that one of the challenges you're saying that we have?
One of the major challenges.
We employ people.
That's one of the major challenges right now.
Okay. Thank you, Alex.
Okay, Alex.
Anything?
Okay. Yes, I would like to add my take on this. First of all, I don't think we should be making this comparison because, number one, Ellen was there for 12 years. Joshua was going to be there for less than 2 years. So how will you compare? Maybe you want to compare month by month, the first 6 months, 12 months. Secondly, when you talk about GDP growth, there's lots of components. Having a higher GDP sometimes is good, sometimes it means very little. There are countries, I think, Libya is growing, I think, 20% because of the post-war. So I think the more relevant conversation in terms of economics and finance in Liberia is poverty. I think that's the metric we should use. And I think Mr. Jackson touched on it when he talked about HDI, which I think is the most effective way of measuring a country's poverty rate or a country's development or even a president. Yeah,
what is that?
Human development. It's a human development index.
Okay. So what does that mean for the pimping board? Give me. What does that mean?
So what that means is that they will look at the population. They will look at the rate of people who have a higher education, like high school or higher. They will look at the mortality rate, what's the death rate, and they will also look at jobs. Those are the three metrics in the Human Development Index. So it's a very, very objective mathematical formula. You can't manipulate it because every country they will look at that is based on that country. And when you look at that, would be a good measurement because that's the point of having a government is to improve the lives of the people. If the people there are still poor and don't have anything, and people dying at 50 and people don't have education, what sense if the GDP is 12%? So in order to go back now to Ellen, on that metrics, no. Economically, using the HDI as an indicator, no, she did not do a good job. In fact, she did a horrible job considering the time that she spent in power, considering when she left Liberia, where Liberia was. And if you look at the Ebola crisis in Liberia, why do you think Liberia, more people die in Liberia? Liberia had a worse outcome than Guinea and Sierra Leone. Go look at the HDI for Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. Again, you see a correlation between the two. Liberia is much lower at the time. So we have to look at what are we measuring. And in Liberia's case, I would say let's continue to measure. Let's use the Human Development Index for every president because it's a more objective way of saying whether you're doing good. And I think right now we're one of the lowest in the world at 40-something%, 42 or 43%. Switzerland and Norway and all these countries are like 90% and higher. You go to South America, they are 70% and 80%. So I will stop there and maybe somebody else can add something to that. But that was the measurement.
Thank you. Thomas, where now? We got to get a chance to our honorable guest. Thomas, you got my namesake, actually. So William Thomas Bernard King. So we share something in common here. So I know I saw you writing things down. To respond. But one of the things I want to make sure that you respond on is this index. If if you have any comment to say on the index, please make sure that you speak on that also. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's one of the That's one of the areas I looked at. Liberia's Human Development Index. If you look at it, you compare our standing with other countries in our neighborhood. You see that we are ranking the lowest, and we should be asking ourselves what accounts for this. If we can find out what accounts for our low performance in terms of our human development, the Human Development Index, then something is actually wrong that we are not capturing. When I look at it, I think there are so many things that we should be considering. Primarily, if you consider our situation today, I think there's a deficit of skills. And with this skills deficit, it also leads us in the direction of poverty because we can't find our way out to do what we should be doing. Let's take it. That's what I comment on. Our skill set are very low in terms of what we are supposed to achieve within a given period of time. Look at our various institutions. The capacity we have under Ellen, do we still have such capacity? It's like we are throwing out competence and doing something else. I would not be specific to name this person, but when it comes to skills, we are very low. That's one area where we are not performing, and all of that is accounted for. Like June said, all of that is accounted for in our Human Development Index. We are not doing well. We can't compare ourselves to Switzerland, Norway, and other countries. I have always said we should begin in our neighborhood. In our neighborhood, we're the lowest. And it does not sound well for us because everybody went through Ebola. While others are picking up and we can pick up, there is something wrong with us. There is something holding on to us. I look at it as basically our skill sets are low. And because our skill sets are low, we are not competing with people in our neighborhood. Dennis. Okay, right.
I want to say once
Dennis, we'll come back to that. Don't worry, Dennis. There's some comments. Please let's get some comments from our people on the line.
Let me read some comments here. I want to say welcome to the Business and Economic Forum. We are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Our topic today is part 2 of the IMF program for Liberia. There's a comment here, one from Dave Jar. He says, what are the Ellen and WIA's economic metrics or philosophies? Can we excuse the WIA's government after 2 years in power? Then Jimmy Eastman said, by late 2010, Liberia's entire debt has been erased, and Johnson Sirleaf had secured millions of dollars of foreign investments in the country. There are conditions that had to be met before this could be accomplished. This is to her administration's credit. The second term was marred with some malfeasance that blemished her track record, the Nukar scam. Then our West African correspondent, the election of Weah to the Liberia's presidency was a calculated mistake. He has little or no knowledge on how the economy of a third world country like Liberia can be effectively and efficiently managed. Irrespective of the amount of loans that might be given to Liberia, it's liable to run into another financial crisis because square pegs in round holes are appointed to run the scrambling economy. That's Edward Amara from Freetown Sierra Leone. So those are the three comments. I'll let Alex, you go first.
Alex, before you go, Alex, hold that thought real quick. One of the things I want you to also talk about is the difference between foreign investment and foreign aid. And also, please comment on if it's debt forgiveness. Does debt forgiveness means cash flow to the economy immediately?
Okay, and all right. So all right, let me address some of the questions that came. The one from Dave in terms of comparison, in terms of metrics. Look, the reality here is that both of these administrations were bad economically, not bad but horrible. Again, this is not an opinion. If you look at the numbers in economics or finance, we look at numbers. The number speaks for itself. Look at the poverty rate on our earning. Look at the poverty rate on a George Weah. And anybody in any part of the world, and I would never compare Liberia with any, even South American country. I would compare Liberia with Seychelles, which is a small country on the island with no resources, right? 100,000 people. They have the highest Human Development Index score in Africa. I will compare Liberia to Mozambique, to Rwanda, Botswana. So I just want to clarify that. Now, the problem here is we have very bad economists in Liberia. And I'm sorry to say if any economists get offended that we don't have an economic policy in Liberia. We have a political policy or political strategy to make somebody president. That's it. I can't read one Liberia comprehensive economic policy, and I've been searching and doing this thing for over 3 years. I will tell you exactly how many manufacturers are we targeting? How many investment are we going to go into small, medium-sized, and large businesses? How many? Where's our target interest rate to promote growth? What areas of the country should we focus on in terms of growth? Neither Ellen was able to articulate that, nor Josh Weah. So the problem comes, and I think I made a statement last week. There's a difference between the political aspect of running a country and the economic aspect. And in Liberia, we combine the two. In any developed country or any country that is any example or any development, the two are separate. The central bank is the one that makes the policy and guides the country economically, promotes employment through a series of different instruments. In Liberia, the president is the one who calls the shot. The president is the one who appoints everybody on the central bank. So as a result, the whole system is dysfunctional. So when I hear people praising Ellie Johnson Sirleaf administration, what are they drinking? You leave a country where you still got 80-90% of the people. You had not one good university. You want to increase your Human Development Index score? Build better university. That's one way, because what? They look at higher education.
But they forgive the debt, Alex. They forgive the debt.
Okay. So
is that real expectation or unfair of us?
That was all a wash. Okay, Liberia was not the only country that got debt forgiveness. It was through the HIPIC program. Almost every country that applied got it. Okay, almost every country. So there's no social credit. Tony Blair, Jeffrey Sachs came up with this program at the UN under Kofi Annan to help, basically being guilty for what these multinational corporations have been doing in Africa. So it was their way of saying, look, this country cannot compete because all these loans were given to the tyrants, were given to people in these governments that it never went to the people. So they shouldn't have even been given, or the interest rates been charging them. So that's what a debt forgiveness program was all about. It was just a way of kind of paying for your sins. And we take that to be some kind of economic plan. Debt forgiveness is not an economic plan. Yes, if you don't have to pay, use your revenue to pay foreign country debt, it will help you marginally. It will help your budget. But then the same countries, they support all the budgets. They supported Ellen Johnson's budget. I think 40% of Ellen Johnson's budget came from foreign countries, these countries. And how do they get the money back? Through the multinational. It's a scheme going on. And like economists and financial people don't have a clue what's going on. Our finance minister are the worst in it. They can't even come on to discuss their own policy. That's my point.
Alex, thank you very much. Thank you very much. There's a couple of things that I wanted you to touch on, but I think you'll touch on it a little bit later. And one of the main things is that when we talk about debt forgiveness, we talk about income for the country. So does debt forgiveness mean that income is coming into the country as plenty of money? But hold that thought. We want to get into our main topic because Thomas, you are here, so we really want to pick your brain on this. This is very important.
Okay, can I just make a comment quick?
Yeah, you got 1 minute.
I need to make a comment on this HDI issue.
So you got 1 minute.
Send it to.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
William, let me just make a quick comment.
Which one?
I thought this most spoken is supposed to respond to it.
Okay.
I'm not getting equal time. I think it's fair.
Okay.
because
Sarah Jackson.
Every time I try, because if let somebody.
Go ahead. Sarah, you got the floor. Go ahead. Then after that,
the two projects spoke on HDI.
I first mentioned HDI when you were all going to this glorification of Ellen. I mentioned HDI as the benchmark for development, and Norway is the highest HDI at 900 plus, and Liberia is nowhere in the middle. Liberia is 177 out of 188 countries in the world. Okay, let's look at the failures of Ellen. Let's look at the failures. Okay, GNI per capita.
But this is not an issue of failure.
No,
we are now discussing the economic. We are supposed to discuss the economic growth.
No, but we are.
Economic growth. Then you're talking about the failure of any administration. We're talking about economic growth. The HDI data I just sent it for us to look at it.
Let me give you the figures, okay? And I will cite the origin of these figures and the attribution of these figures. Okay, the World Bank Atlas method says that Liberia is the fourth poorest country in the world based upon GNI per capita. The fourth poorest. Okay?
Except the HDI report 2019 from UNDP have been forwarded to Mr. Da. He can screen it right now.
I'm not talking about HDI. I'm talking about money metrics in terms of the poverty index.
National income, right?
Because those are two things: money metrics and in terms of human development. They're two different matrices, okay? So if you look at the GNI per capita, Liberia, by the end of 2017, 2018, to go to 2018, was declared the poorest on the planet with a GNI per capita of $700. It was in USA Today. We all saw that. Number two, the Household Income and Expenditure Survey of Liberia 2016 said more than 50% of the population lived in extreme poverty. That's by our national standard of $1 a day. When you go to $1.25 a day, 84% of Liberians live under the international poverty line. That's from the Human Development Report. Now, when you talk about the attraction of foreign direct investment, the quantum of foreign direct investment that was bunted 16 to 17 was pure hogwash and fraudulent, because if you look at the GDP calculation between the period of 2006 and 2017, there is no way that quantum of 17 billion could have been. These are plain investments. And when these are plain investments, when you're using the revenues of a country, okay, from the extractive sector to reinvest, that's not foreign direct investments. That's domestic capital formation. So people need to know, understand that clarification. So Ellen failed in where? Even LASIP, the Liberian Agricultural Sector Investment Plan, is universally agreed that LASIP was a failure. We are doing LASIP 2 now. Liberia does not have an agricultural foundation. The output of agriculture is minuscule.
Well, Mr. How many minutes can Mr. Jackson on this one issue?
Well, Okay, I mean, if you don't want to hear the truth, that's fine. I know the truth bothers me.
Mr. Jackson, I'm the host now. Mr. Jackson, I'm the host now, right? So, have you completed your thought? Because I want to give it to Defu. So don't worry about Defu. Don't let it distract you.
I feel the truth is hurtful, so I won't say the truth. I'll just shut up.
Yeah, but sometimes you're joking people all over. It hurting.
No, I'm giving you the numbers. I mean, I'm a numbers man. I'm an empiricist.
Yeah.
And Defu will know. I wrote the 2010 MDG report, and I wrote a 2014 MDG report, so I know these numbers.
Okay, thank you.
I'm off the street with these numbers. I chronicle socio-economic development in Liberia, so I know what the figures are, and I know the rate of growth, the economic growth rate, economic transformation, and I know where we are in terms of our poverty indices. And
thank you.
We have not done well at all. In 17 years of post-war democratic dispensation, we've done a very, very poor job.
Thank you. Defu, please, I want you to comment on that, and then we're gonna go to Thomas, because Thomas, I really want us to get into our meat of the topic today. So Defu, go ahead.
Before you get into the main topic today, I would like for Mr. Ja to just screen what I sent to him on the Liberian HDR to let Mr. Jackson and the viewers to know what the HDR have been for Liberia. If you feel that Madam Sadi administration didn't do anything, you see the growth trend clearly from the United Nations Development Program that produced the HDR for every country. Just Mr. Ja, can you please do that before I make my comment?
Yes, I'm doing that now.
So Mr. Jackson can know.
But Mr. Jackson never said there's been no economic growth rate. I said the growth in the HDR has been flat, very flat.
It's not flat. So let him go down to page 3 because it's not flat. If you look at the screen,
no one said the HDR.
Please go to page 3.
I'm saying to you the HDR.
Okay. And you see the graph, below. If it's been flat, look at the graph below. No, I'm not arguing with that. I want you to look at the report in the graph below.
Hold on, Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
Hold on, Mr. Jackson.
0.422 to 0.465. That's flat growth in HDI. In fact, Guinea is higher than we are now. We are only second to Sierra Leone in the amount of revenue.
Why are you not giving us a chance to look at the data? I want to speak to the data.
It came from 0.4.
Go ahead, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Zuo.
Can you bring the screen up because the graph that will be clear? That Mr. Jackson see it. The data is clear there. That like no, go further down a little bit.
Keep going.
Start right there. You said it's flat. You see, it's good that the HDR have been moving. So instead of you talking, I want you to understand this. I want you to understand that you're talking about HDR calculation. There are so many things that are taken into consideration. You're talking about education, the life expectancy. The main thing you need to be looking at here, the education level. Liberia, when Madam Sadi took over, you're talking about college education. Today we have community colleges in the various counties. You have the University of Liberia. Actually, the attendance rose from 12,000 to 35,000. And you telling me that there have been no growth. And you telling the entire world that there's been a flat growth. The next thing I want you to understand is that the life expectancy. The life expectancy, look at the data there. It's speaking clearly that there have been a 17.5% growth in life expectancy. So why would you say Eddie didn't do anything? So these data are clear. There's no need for us to be looking at anything else. I want it to be clear because these are the United Nations Development Program report for 2019. Now you're talking about the GNR. You see the decline in the GNR in 2018. Great. Just from 2017 to 2018 had been a reduction. So that's an indication of the economic side of it, the economic side of the life. So instead of us focusing on
Mr. Debaswo,
Mr. Jackson, hold on, let him finish.
Mr. Jackson, let me finish now. Instead of us focusing on how we want to sustain continuity, we're looking behind. If you are looking at a graph consistently, you look at it realistically, data has shown that there have been growth. You cannot see now a decline. Instead of you saying, how do we improve it? They will still criticize in the past.
Mr.
Instead of going in the past, we're not doing good for the public.
Mr. Zuo, what Mr. Jackson is saying is the growth is flat because it's 0.4.
It is not flat. When you see that point, the first thing that there is that it's not a GDP growth. When it comes to human development index calculation, it has a lot of things how to do with life expectancy. It has to do with educational level. So it's not economic growth that you'll be quantitatively calculating. Improvement in the living standard of people is one thing you got to look at.
So, Depu.
Yes, sir.
Liberian life expectancy rose because it came from a very low base when they had a war. When you had a war that killed 250,000 people, that was a negative in the life expectancy. At the end of the war, when you institute security, when you open a few hospitals, when you open a few clinics, life expectancy is going to shoot up. But if you look at Liberian life expectancy compared to the rest of the world, we're very low. And using your own statistics, 0.422 to 0.465 is a flat growth in the Human Development Index. In fact,
Mr. Jackson,
we were higher.
What was their growth trend? What was the addition?
No, you got to give me a chance to talk now. Liberia was higher than Guinea. We were next to La Cote d'Ivoire. But we are now the second lowest in the region. We're only above Sierra Leone in the Human Development Index. Okay? So,
what is it? What's the educational level? This is what you need to take into consideration.
You didn't give me you talk, I didn't say anything.
Oh, yeah, you said something.
If you are telling me, that 84%.
Cote d'Ivoire, when it comes to education, Cote d'Ivoire got a higher literacy rate. You look at Guinea. So Liberia now the focus was education, health.
All right.
And the health and education, those are areas that growth compatible institutions. They were focusing on, you see that access to health facility became one major success story for Madam Salih.
You saw GNI. You saw GNI coming down, and you saw it zigzag, right? GNI, the fourth poorest country on the planet based upon the Atlas method.
Okay. All right,
Mr. Jackson, I don't want us to be comparing with the rest of the country. I want us to see where they are growth. Because there are no growth.
Let's mute Deputy a second. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. So we're both saying the same thing, essentially that, look, we've had some growth. We did good with the little we had. So the question is, how can we move forward with where we are right now, with what we have right now?
Mr. King, we did not have a little, we have a lot. When the international community invests $10 billion
yes.
in a country.
Well, take a step back now. Take a step back. I want you to take a step back and explain the difference between, please explain between foreign aid, like aid and investments, because I saw that stat, of course, from the US aid, right? There was a lot of money that was put in, right? So the thing you got to share some light on is that, did we have control of that money and decide where we want to put it? Was it something like ours for capital markets, or was it coming in, going out?
Mr. Jackson, please fix your camera. We are only seeing your head. We want. Okay.
Mr. Jackson, can I come in? Because that question is very much important. Because Mr. Jackson just called me a figure. One thing you got to look at is that the function of that income you're talking about. Because one thing that there is that if they spend $10 billion in Liberia, you need to look at what contribute to labor and what actually contribute to capital. And in that analysis, you got to know that the inflow for Liberia, what's the scale level? You're talking about support that want to use UNMIL does not necessarily have to be calculated as an income to Liberia, because automatically it's going back. There's an outflow of it going back. So he doesn't want to say that, okay, we have UNMIL. UNMIL spending in the economy, the first thing that there is that UNMIL spending in the economy does not necessarily equate to what? The domestic production. People were importing. So all we needed to have done was to build the capacity, build industry. And we didn't have the energy, There was no electricity. There what? Road have been constrained. So these are infrastructure, electricity, road, and these are things that Madam Sadi focused on to make sure that these things are in place. You're talking about Onmill departure. Before Onmill left, there was assessment done, the Liberian government capacity to take care of security, and there was confidence in the economy. What you need to also look at is that investment is not all about the dollars that come in, it's about the confidence. You can sit down here in America without necessarily going to Liberia, but you can invest in the economy if you trust the economy. But the problem here now is that confidence has eroded in the current administration. And our focus is not to be blaming people on what happened to any administration. You have an opportunity where you say that the GNI you're talking about increased by 12.7%. How do you discuss that issue? If GNI has increased by 12.7%, and now it's decreasing. Why is it decreasing? These are issues you're supposed to be focusing on. Instead of blaming what happened during Onmill time, what is happening now? Do we have confidence even in our security system? Do people have confidence in our banking system?
That's why we want to take the discussion now, because we are midway. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. We want to welcome you to our Business and Economic Forum, and we are discussing the IMF program to Liberia part 2. But now we are discussing what the debate is about is the we are economics versus the L economics. We are economics and L economics. So now we've seen all that we have studied and see that things are not going well. What do we do now? That's what we should focus on in the last segment of this topic on we are economics versus L economics. Alex, you've been quiet. This is unusual. So you go first.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm always quiet. But
yeah, right.
To answer the question, to answer Mr. Williams' question, there's a big difference between foreign aid and investment, and there's different kinds of investment. Okay, there's foreign direct investment. There's other types of investment where it comes from the private sector, local investment, you name it. Foreign aid can be an investment depending on what is put into it. If the U.S. government, the British government decides to say, well, we're going to give FPRC a loan of $10 million at 2% rate, that's a foreign direct investment. That would be good. If in exchange, if Tony Blair goes to Liberia and says, well, I want to open a center in Liberia for good governance, and the British government is going to fund that center, like the Carter Center. They're going to pay Tony Blair, they're going to pay his staff. That does nothing to the economy literally. You know, it's not going to any kind of productive sector except for the driver that he's going to hire or, you know, the office space. So again, and it's a good thing that I think everybody in the show should be able to provide some kind of solution to our problems, because going back and forth is really not going to help us. We discussed the GDP. If you look at Liberia GDP or GNI from 1997 to 2002, we should honor child stealing. One point we grew 100%. So that's why I don't think it's a good number to look at. If you come for a war, you add negative 30% and war stops, of course, you're going to have a boost. But the HCI is a very good indicator because I think it addresses a lot of different issues. And to look at Liberian problem, I always make the statement that you can't provide what you don't have. Okay, if somebody does not have the experience, the knowledge, the economic and financial abilities to manage an economy, you can pray, you can fast, you know, that economy will be broken. And that's what you have in Liberia. Going back, I would say even before the war, we have very, very bad people managing the economy. They don't have the experience. These are not people where, you know, any country will put in any kind of high-level position or any corporation, as a matter of fact. But these are the people who are managing the Liberian economy. These are your finance ministers. These are your deputy ministers. These are your bank governors. These are not people who have demonstrated. They haven't set up any company. Now, if you go to Nigeria, you take a guy like Sunusi, who has been managing a bank, First Bank, all right, for a long time, one of the largest banks in Nigeria. He was in charge of risk management, in charge of different divisions, investment. And you make that kind of person central bank governor, they know the private market, they know the global market, you will have good policy, and that's what happened in Nigeria. But if you bring somebody who just graduated from school with an MBA, never worked a day in their life, in real banking, I'm not talking about working at the bank, because the janitors are work at the bank. how do you expect the economy to grow? So my solution is, first you have to have the people with experience. They have to be in the right places, meaning the central bank. I'm glad we got a central banker on the line, because that is where you will grow your economy from, not the president's office. That's where you pass policies to capitalize your banks. That's where you set policy to grow employment. That's where you even can regulate banks. You can shut banks down. The Central Bank of Liberia. You can determine tomorrow if you want to move capital from Monrovia to Bon County by giving lower interest rate in Bon County and higher interest rate in Monrovia. All these things are available to every country. And many countries have utilized it. They brought people who understand banking, who understand capital markets, and they're doing very well. In Liberia, we bring our friends and our buddies from our political party. You see it with other Ellie Johnson Salif. She brought her son there. This was not someone who had the kind of banking experience that I would look at and say, okay, yeah, this guy knows. He may be good in other things, but banking was not his strong point. And so let's stop bringing people when it comes to the economy who don't have the experience, the expertise. And I think that was the only way Liberia will start to grow and to develop.
Thank you, Alex. I don't know if Thomas is still on yet. Dennis, can you check?
No, Thomas is not on. I'm trying to get
okay.
him.
Let's go to things. So one of the things that I want to kind of clarify is that yes, during the time from the time that President Sirleaf came into office, there was a lot of investment coming into Liberia. There was a lot of money coming in. Maybe some may even argue from the private sector, because we had Sima Darby, we had Firestone did a recommitment, and I believe we had Estella Mattel. Now, something that I think for our viewers and listeners to kind of very well understand this, there are two differences here. One is where a company comes into your country and to give the government a concession to operate in your country. Now, that doesn't do as much for your country as you think it will. It doesn't do as much. The other one is where a company gets invited into your country, or it comes in, and as a country, you basically work something out where there's an ownership in that company. So you have an ownership percentage in that company in your country. So therefore, as they grow, as they make profit, as there's equity growth and so forth, now you become partakers of it. Now, what happens in Liberia in our current situation is that we at times get this stuff confused. Investment into Liberia, a company coming in, it may help a little bit, but it's not going to give you that good, healthy growth that you're kind of looking for. We are disenfranchised. We are heavily disenfranchised in our Liberian economy, and we've been saying that for so long. For so long, we've been saying it. The solutions and plans and stuff that we have for Liberia has to involve Liberians. It has to involve us being able to put money into the businesses, put money into things that we believe in. We can't say we want a company to come and do agriculture. Yes, they're going to come and do agriculture, but it's their money. So who's going to benefit the most? They are. And the other thing is that we have to look at all of these things, printing money, the different things that we'll get into. But how is that motivating anyone from looking at a product in Liberia and want to buy something? For example, how is this going to impact planting maybe more planting trees, right? So that a company maybe like Walmart says, hey, you know what? We need to buy 100 tons of plantains. Let's write a check, because if Walmart writes us a check, that's US dollars, right? That's US dollars. Tourism, hey, you know what? We want to go over here, and they're coming in with foreign dollars, right? We don't have that. So I want, as we look at this topic, why print money when there's a proposal to print new money, right? Why? And then two, we're printing additional $4 billion to meet the aggregate demand. So these things are, let's answer these questions. I want to get thoughts on that from the central bank. But at the very core of the situation is that, is this even going to help? Whether we have this debate about the currency if nobody wants to buy something from Liberia right now. And right now we have no one wanting to buy stuff from Liberia. Who wants to take a stab at that right now? Samuel?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
William,
Yes.
any economist look at the quantum of $16 billion of investment in the country planned over a period of 40 years and gloats at that and says that compared to other countries like this George Lobo guy is saying, in no other country in West Africa, in 16 billion, he obviously doesn't understand economics. Because this is a country that was in war for 14 years. And when the war ended, there was a stampede to come and exploit our resources. So 90% of the investments were in what? The extractive sector, iron ore. There were not a rush to build infrastructure. There was not a rush to build a domestic capital market. There was not a rush to build a domestic financial infrastructure. There was not a rush to build manufacturing. There was not a rush to invest in tourism. There was not a rush to do anything but to come and exploit their country. So if you are happy to say that because they're going to invest $10 or $16 billion over a period of 40 years, you don't understand economics. You don't understand aggregate demand. You don't understand anything about economics. The other important point that my friend William King made, and he didn't use the word, is indigenous allocation. We have to ride the growth curve of any investment in the country. But if the investments that come is FDI, and we don't have shares in those companies. In America, my wife and other people who work in America, they have shares, they have 401k in the Fortune 500 companies, and they ride the growth curve. In Liberia, Liberians don't have shares in ArcelorMittal, they don't have shares in Simdabi, they don't have shares in none of those extractive industries in the country. So what does that do? It continues the cycle of dependence. It continues the cycle of poverty. Because if you look at from 1944, the first major investment was 1954, okay? Iron ore. And for a period of 10 years, Liberia did what? Had the second highest growth rate in the world next to Japan. But what was that growth considered? Growth without development. So if people don't understand real economics, if people don't understand real substantiation of economic policy, for what? For sustainable growth and development. The reason why you're having the problems today, because Ellen did not put Liberia on a sustainable path, an irreversible path for economic growth. Most of the jobs that were created in the public sector between 2006 and 2017. The public sector, the wage bill was $300 million. And then 17,000 people came with a wage bill. When Ellen came, she did what? She said she came to right size and she came to downsize. So because of political reasons, what did Ellen do again? She what? She fell the wage bill again. So two opposites, completely two opposites. So this was policy incoherence. And that caused us to be where we are today. Now, I'm not absolving these new people, CDC government, because they made a lot of mistakes also. I mean, you can charge them, they're derelict in their responsibility, maladministration, fiscal, lack of fiscal prudence and all of that. You can count them up. And also, they added more people onto the wage bill also. But fundamentally,
Mr. Jackson, the question, Mr. Jackson,
reversible economic trajectory and sustainable growth was Ellen, but none.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jackson. The question was, what do we do now? But we have left that and we are going to the printing of money. So as William said, we want to discuss these things on the printing of money, the central bank. So these are the questions we'll be looking at in this second segment. Why print additional money when there is a proposal to print new money? With the printing of the additional 4 billion, I know the House approved that already, would that meet aggregate demand? How can the CBL, that's the Central Bank of Liberia, address the issue of printing new money? You know,
I would like to take a stab at that, Dennis.
New money.
Okay, Mr. Dad.
Okay, Dennis, I'm here.
All right. So you just can't. So let me go to Depu on the central bank, the printing of new money, and how is this going to resolve the current inflation and the liquidity challenge?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just, before I get to this issue of printing money, let me just make small education here, and because that's how the Liberian people will always feel when they hear the number. So just say that someone invested 16 billion in Liberia in FDI, foreign direct investment. The first thing that there is that as an economist, you need to also take into consideration what's the lifespan of the investment. If someone is coming in with, let's say, ArcelorMittal that went into 6 billion investment, what is happening there is that there are phases. The 40-year agreement, it doesn't mean that the 6 billion has hit the economy or it will hit the economy in 10 years. No, it has a timeline. So they got phases of the investment. And the phases of the investment are clearly outlined in these mineral development agreements. And so it's something we need to clarify. To say that Liberia received 16 billion that hit the economy is not the right interpretation. But let me go into the issue of the printing of additional money. There's a difference between printing new banknotes and that additional banknote. What is very much important here for us to know is that first, Liberia is facing serious challenge in terms of the money supply. Quite interestingly, from all indication reports that came from the recent investigation says that Banasali administration printed actually 15.5 billion Liberian dollar. And central bank, according to all records, says that the money was received. But now, between March 2018 to today's date, it is now alarming that the bank does not have that cash, liquidity capacity to actually meet the public demand. And now they are asking for additional 4 billion to be printed of the same banknote. It means there's a problem. And realistically, we need to look at it from this perspective. Let me put it in the simple English. You are the custodian of the full money in the home. Like I said, mom and dad the last time. And we know that you have $15.5 billion in the home. And you're supposed to make sure that this money is given out for the children to go do other activity and investment, other things and come back. And we'll realize that even the money that you said the children have it, including the one you say you have it, you check, someone come to borrow today, the money is not there. Then you say, well, I have the money, and people show that you have the money, then something is wrong, realistically. So these are some of the problems that we need to find solution to, because these things actually create doubt in the mind of anyone. Even commercial banks, managers and owners tend to question whether there's a control over the money supply, there's a managerial decision made. How is the money being handled in the economy? There where this concern is. So for me, for President, we have to write a letter asking the legislature to print additional 4 billion of the same banknote. It create credibility problem for the bank and also for the government. It is important at this time for the government to be addressing, okay, they say, okay, the money left the bank, money supply is out of the bank. What are some of the mechanisms can the bank put in place to bring back the money? These are the strategies that's supposed to be discussed instead of saying, let's print additional money. Why if you print additional 4 billion today to address current challenges of salary and rest of it, and time kind of 4 billion is also taking away from the economy? There's something fundamental wrong of the cash, or the money supply. Something is wrong somewhere that it need to be clarified by the central bank. So for me, I don't think that it's a right thing to print additional money when they have made a proposal to print new banknote. So there are two things there. Printing additional 4 billion, it means that you already have an inflation of 30%. You are infusing that. You say you want to print new money. So how long will you use this 4 billion in order for you to print the new 32 billion? It's something that we have to look at. In the first place, just 15.5 billion took the inflation from 17% to 30%, and you bring in additional 4 billion of the same amount, I would advise that the best thing to do, either to say we are not going to print new money, then put a mechanism in place to make sure that all those who in possession of the Liberian dollar, maybe for example, you can say today, the government of Liberia will have Liberian dollar and US dollar as a legal tendency for revenue collection. The government could suggest today and say, Firestone, you are the major taxpayer. We need Liberian dollar back into the system, and Firestone, you have to pay your tax now in Liberian dollar. With that decision, if Firestone is to pay 60 million Liberian dollar, if it's not in their coffer, they definitely will create demand for a money exchanger. Whoever keeping money at home, Firestone can exchange in the street at a higher rate and bring the money right back into the system. Even those who are also purchasing abroad, those who want to purchase abroad, like even companies that are producing and selling Liberian dollar, like factory, like Coca-Cola factory, Cimenco. These companies can be they can negotiate with this company to make sure that their deposits are actually done in such a way that they can track it. And in the end, CBL can also carry on the same auction they were doing before the Liberian dollar auction. So we'll exchange at this higher rate to get the Liberian dollar back into the system. Instead of doing this thing to go and print 4 billion, for me, I will not see it as a good suggestion. It will escalate the problem. Either they print new money and get rid of it. Thank you.
Okay.
I know
Alex, what?
We had a debate on this.
Well, we did. I just want to chime in right here because, again, when most of Liberian economists and financial political people talk, they kind of don't look at the problem in Liberia comprehensively. They just want to solve one problem. I listened to 12 one time. The only problem in Liberia was the salary harmonization. Once you solve the harmonization, everything will be all right, payroll come. The next day was, oh no, we need to do mobile exercise. Oh, now it's printing new money. Nonsense, okay? I've recommended before many times in Liberia. Look, I work as a consultant. My only job I've done in this country was to consult financial industry and financial banks and things like that. So I got a little bit of knowledge and experience on what I'm talking about, or I will shut my mouth. Liberia's entire economic system, financial system needs to be revamped. Okay? Whether you tomorrow you don't print money, or you print money, or you do mobile exercise, the first problem in Liberia is the lack of Liberians with the skills, knowledge, and experience to manage Liberian industries and Liberian banks. We don't have any Liberian banker right now in Liberia. Even if the U.S. were to say, okay, we're going to give Liberia $2 billion to open corporation. Name one Liberian in Liberia that has 5 years of experience of managing a multinational corporation, including Cummings. Cummings was an administrator. He was not a manager. He was not a financial manager. And we think in Liberia, once you have an MBA, then all of a sudden now you're educated to do everything. And it doesn't work that way. To do something efficiently, you must learn. You must have a lot of time to understand. Like, look, Samuel Jackson is one of the only few Liberian economists I respect, because most times when he's talking about, he can be a little agitated and a little confrontational. But I'm surprised that this man is not a central bank governor or not working in the central bank, because at least he has the empirical and the analytical experience. And what he's talking about may not be 100% correct, but his foundation, he has some foundation in economic sciences, in econometrics, and so forth. Mr. Zuo, I would see him as one of the policy person in Liberia. He understands policy, he understands political economics. And so everybody has different skills. And what Liberia needs to do is to start touching this country up and really get down, get all these people together, and so they can come up with a real economic policy. Using the Liberian, what you call the Universal Liberia Economics Department, Economics and Finance Department. That's where money should be going. Because you cannot, you talk about Firestone. Why do we have Metro C in Liberia? When you and I sitting here working for corporations, and we can't even develop our own mining industry. So that's a corporate Liberia problem. Liberians we don't have the people, the capable people to manage our industry. And so long we don't have that, get ready and tighten your belt. Liberia will continue to decline. Our human development rate will never go up because we don't have the industries or the industry's leaders to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Can we go to Thomas? Thomas, yeah. Thomas, where you are? Where are you?
I'm here. You getting
Thomas,
me?
I want you to let us have it now because you've been holding your peace now. I want you.
Yes.
You got the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I have said it before, and I say it today. Printing of money has never been a macroeconomic tool. So we cannot use it to solve our problems. But let's assume that we want to use printing of money. What do we target? What macroeconomic goal do we target? Are we targeting exchange rate, inflation? Are we targeting growth? I say this because the problem remains with us in as much as we have not identified our target and the appropriate economic tool. Then let's take, for example, the first half of 2018, inflation was 180.6. I mean, exchange rate, it had gone to 180.66. The first half of 2019 is something different. The figures are not in our favor. So what leads us to printing money? Printing money for me is not a solution. What we should be doing is there are prior issues that we should address to instill confidence in this economy. For example, all of the previous reports should be addressed. And when we address those reports, then we have reasons or justifications to print additional money. In the meantime, we are suggesting printing 4 billion. Print 4 billion for what? For how long? What it amounts to is that people around the president are not making the appropriate recommendations, are not steering the economy and making the appropriate recommendations. The recommendation to print 4 billion for what? My own view is that we should stop printing. Printing is not an economic tool. It's not a macroeconomic tool. So we
Thomas, help me here. Thomas, help me understand something. Who says yes or no to the president for printing money? Is it something that the president is the ultimate decider, or is it something that the central bank can say yes or no? I'm just talking about right now. I'm not saying what is happening, but what does the law say? Help us.
The printing of money should start with the Central Bank of Liberia, because the economy is steadied at that point. Say we have this level of liquidity challenge. And because we have this level of liquidity challenge, our estimate is this figure. Now, Dennis, economists in Liberia, I have a team, have made their best recommendations to policymakers. Our challenge is political decision making has always not gone in the direction of economy.
Slow down, Thomas. Slow down, Thomas. Make us understand this. Please, make us understand this. You're going too fast.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So are you saying that you can have someone like Alex, Depu, Samuel in these positions that can look at it and say, yes, this is not the right thing to do, but then your hands are tied? Possibly.
We need them. We need them in the economy.
No. I mean, even if they were there, but the ultimate decision, what you're saying is that in Liberia, we have some good people that make the decision, but the decision doesn't come from them. Sorry, the recommendation. So they make the recommendation, but they have no power to enforce it. Please shed some light on that.
No, Thomas, what I'm saying is this. All recommendations from the central bank are informed by the available data, by analysis, and all of that. When that is done, the recommendations are made to the political decision makers. And it is at that point that politicians have the decision to either accept what the economists have recommended or not. That I am saying is our problem. For example, economists in Liberia, we have recommended over time economic diversification, value addition, but it has not gone anywhere. So if economists are recommending to the president that this is the quantity of money we need to print, or we don't need to print this, we need this strategy to increase, to get out the money that is either in the vaults of businesses or households. There is a recommendation always. I'll tell you one thing, the central bank has capacity. The central bank has capacity, has the technicians, but it is our politicians that have not accepted those recommendations. So the issue of printing money, for me, I kept saying it, I said it before on this platform, we cannot print money if we have not addressed prior challenges, prior misconceptions. There are things we need to address to print money.
Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Jackson. What Thomas is saying is we cannot print money as our way out of this economic situation. The last time you were on this show, you were advocating for the printing of new banknotes.
I did. But thank you very much. First of all, I want to tell Alice thank you for recognizing that indeed there are some Liberians who have the Fortune 500 experience, including myself. Okay, and when I went to Liberia in May of this year, I was looking at some of the macro challenges, and the first macro challenge I look at was the situation in the monetary sector. There's an excess supply of Liberian dollars in the money in circulation. So I look at inflation and I look at the reduction of purchasing power. And the reduction of purchasing power is the greatest evil, and in fact induces poverty in the country. I want us to solve that. So Alex, a young man from the university.
I read the paper. Mr. Jackson. It's a good paper.
Okay.
I'm not receiving it. I'm waiting for it.
Okay, I'll send it to you. I took a young man who's doing his PhD, a Liberian young man, 25 years old. I look for talent. It doesn't matter age, ethnicity, or nothing. Great talent, great in terms of econometrics, okay? Guys who understand all the econometric software, Stata, advanced Stata, eViews, and all of that, and Arrow. We went to Liberia, and we did a comprehensive study of the monetary sector. And what we discovered was that there are three parallel financial structures in the country. The Kulas, the Lebanese, and the Indians, they have their parallel financial structures. We don't use the bank. In fact, only 4%.
Shadow, I think it's called shadow structure. Shadow banking.
Yeah, it is shadow banking, okay? So in the circular flow of money, you have the banks must intermediate a larger percentage of what? GDP. In Kenya, you have mobile money. 93% of Kenyans use mobile money. And also, financial exclusion is a major problem in Liberia. Only 7% of adults in Liberia have bank accounts, whereas in Ghana it's 50%. Because we have the parallel financial structures existing within the country, what that does, it takes the money out of the banking system and the cash and carry economy. And because another factor contributing to this is something called the high degree of informality. You have about 2 million people within the workforce, but 80% of those people in the workforce are within the informal economy. They're not in any kind of structure. They are not wage earners. So no one is if anybody tells you somebody is hoarding money in Liberia, that's a lie. That money is circulating out there in those three parallel financial structures. There's no way any smart Fula Lebanese or Indian businessman is going to hoard a depreciating currency that, like Mr. Depozo said, has lost 30% of its value just over a period of 1 year. So we need to do something about financial exclusion to bring the money back into the system. You have to digitize the payment system. You have to do automatic clearinghouse, and you have to do something called RTGS, real-time gross settlement. And then you have to improve your Visa, your MasterCard, your ATM, and all of that. So it is not a good idea to print money with those kind of circumstances, because if you print money, the inflation rate is going to rise up. So one of the things I suggested in my monetary aggregate study was to basically demonetize the old money that have been illegally and criminally infused into the economy between 2016 and 2018, was printed by the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government. There's something in economics, as you all know, called QTM, the quantitative theory of money. There's a close linear relationship between economic growth rate and the money supply, output times price. The criminal government of the past, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government, they infused this money into the economy. They infused this money into the economy. They use it as a golden parachute. They took the income from there, okay, the seigniorage income from that money. The seigniorage income was now recorded in the financial statement of the central bank, and they didn't use it to retire T-bills or T-bonds, and they did not remit that money to the central government authority. $130 million.
Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
You were here and you advocated for the printing of this money. What has changed?
I'm talking about 2016 to 2018. I didn't say print new money. I said to take the old money out of the currency, out of circulation. I said to demonetize. So there is confusion about what.
Don't confuse me.
No.
We were here and you said.
Let me finish now, but you
Mr.
have to
Jackson,
give me-
you
you
said
have to give me
printing.
chance.
Yeah, you said we should print money.
I'm here. I said print money to do what? To retrieve, as a retrieval process. And I did not say 35 billion. I always said we have to know the quantum of M2, aggregate money in the money supply. The only way you would know that if you call for a retrieval of that money that was illegally and criminally infused into the economy. That's why I said print money to exchange, to demonetize the whole thing. So that confusion exists in the minds of people who are non-economists. But an economist would never say, when you have 30% inflation, go and print additional money and infuse it in the economy, because that would be madness beyond madness. It not even be madness, it would be criminal. Okay, and without what you're doing is economic sabotage to print additional money to infuse with an economy that is already experiencing 30%. And the monetary tools that they are using, there's a lot of policy incoherence in that. Number one, they talk about standard deposit facility. Standard deposit facility is a contractionary monetary policy, right? And then they talk about decreasing the reserve ratio, which is contractionary. So those two policies, they cancel each other out. So it tells me that the central bank does not have the technical depth now or in the past to correctly do what it was instituted to do, which is to ensure to preserve the store of value, which is the currency of the country. The 95% of that money that is outside is because there is no trust within the banking system.
Okay.
And until you have trust in the banking system and to do some of the things that Alex was talking about, to provide competent management. I mean, real competent monetary economy to sit down and track the money supply based upon the activities within the economy. You don't have a central bank.
Dennis,
Look, how did a central bank, for example, go and allow banks?
Mr. Jackson.
yeah.
I want for Thomas and Depu to come in.
The CBI report of 2018, this is important. I'm into our phone. The CBI report of 2018 said that the banks had liquidity ratio of 40% over and above the prudential ratio of 15% in 2018. So how come there is zero liquidity in 1 year? It means the bank examination was fraudulent, was criminal, was illegal, including the management of the banks, the management of the banks, the internal controls, and also the external editors, because those external auditors there, they certify, the quality of the financial statement. So there's a complete breakdown in the financial architecture of the country that needs to be fixed.
Let me bring on Thomas, who was at the central bank that you are accusing of what you say criminal introduction. Thomas.
Yes. Dennis?
5 people were indicted. Just remember that. So I'm not going to say criminal. 5 people were indicted. So that's a fact.
Okay, Thomas.
Yeah.
And after Thomas, Mr. Zuo, you can come in.
Now, the first thing I want to comment on is, is the hoarding. There is actually hoarding in the economy. We had liquidity just some months back. All of a sudden, we don't have liquidity in the economy. The question is, what happened? Where did all of this money go? What happened to it? And Mr. Jackson is saying that the Fullahs, the Lebanese, the Indians, that's a part of it. You cannot leave out the rest of the population. I had an experience. I went to Riverses. Riverses at that time, there was no bank, even a community bank did not exist in Riverses. When we got there was this man with Susu, like we say in Liberia. He was a Susu father. All that money was with him. And he and his wife were taking turns to leave the house. If his wife is out, then he's in, because they have to secure the money. And that is still obtaining. There's a situation of financial exclusion. So people are actually out of the banking system, but they have access to liquidity. And because they don't have access to to banks, they will actually hoard that money at home. So it's not an issue of Fullahs, Lebanese, and Indians. Liberians too are engaged in hoarding. Hoarding is a real problem in Liberia. And the last time I said it, we should design a way to phase out what is currently existing and see a way that all of these people who are hoarding will bring back the liquidity at home to the official system. That's one part of it. Then the other issue is Mr. Jackson's consistent use of criminal, fraudulent. It doesn't work. It is not acceptable. The reason why I say it doesn't work is everything that happens in the system is transparent, is open. Mr. Jackson may have his problem with an individual, but it doesn't mean it beclouds the entire system. Because the central bank I know I work for is transparent. We have technicians there. So where is Mr. Jackson getting the idea of criminality?
Five people were indicted and criminally charged. Five.
Where is Mr. Jackson getting the idea of criminality from and all of that from?
Including the executive governor. 5 people were charged. That's criminal. Okay, they were charged.
They have been charged and they are still being prosecuted until there can be a decision from the court, Mr. Jackson. That's why I'm suspecting that you're being personal. That's why I'm suspecting that you're being personal. Until the court can take a decision on this matter, you cannot criminalize anybody. You can't do that.
If you are indicted, if you did
Mr.
not,
Jackson, the case is in court. This case is in court. You cannot criminal.
That's criminal.
Mr. Jackson, in as much as the case is in court, who gives you the authority to criminalize anybody? Wait until the court takes a decision.
That's a point there, Mr. Jackson. Let's go to Mr. Zuo.
Yes, thank you very much. The issue, I listen to Mr. Jackson, but realistically, I'd like to go for data. We are not giving fair view of what is happening in the monetary sector in Liberia. The reality there is that technical efficiency and political efficiency are two different things. What I see now is that political efficiency are actually overrating the technical efficiency of the bank. Realistically, as I said earlier, I don't want us to print new money. What are some of the things with people store of value? The Liberian dollar in terms of store of value, it actually depreciates. It doesn't have its value anymore. Many people don't trust their own money because after printing, there was this speculation, which Mr. Jackson is talking about, that some people were bringing back the mutilated money into the system. It brought public confidence. In fact, some people also said there were money printed on the side. But these things were all clarified by the Central Bank of Liberia. With the issue of investigation, I've not seen the report on it. But one thing that is clear here now is that Liberia is now becoming almost like a country of money laundering. The Central Bank issued a regulation in 2013, which actually, after establishing the FIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit, gave the Central Bank and the FIU the opportunity to control, internal control obligation of financial institutions, so that there will be a direct supervision. They are supposed to be in a position to actually report on any transaction of taking huge sum of money payable account to other corresponding accounts, something that that they find suspicious to be reported. And these things are not actually being monitored. If it's true that a Fulani or Indians is having enough Liberian dollars stored somewhere, how do you really get it back? One, there's a possibility that this identical company was depositing on a regular basis, and you look at their deposit trend in the commercial bank. If there's a decrease in it and the company still operate, there's a need for investigation. Or if you think that a Fuller guy is having control over huge sum of Liberian dollar and does not have any account somewhere, then the FIU need to also investigate and find out where is your source of action. So there should be what tracking of what the money flow itself, money supply. So these are things that we need to put in place. And one thing that I know for the world that is important. Look at what is happening. It's ordinary Liberian people having the money there. There's holding going on. If you happen to go with Liberian data in a commercial bank, the saving interest rate is 2%. And if you keep this money home and go into the informal sector, which is the Susu Club, you are lending this money at 20% or 15%. Do you expect people to actually hold the money in the system, or they will keep it to the Susu Club? This is a simple question I want to ask. So these are some of the informal financial institutions that are now controlling the system in Liberia. Now, how the banking system can look at these things as a challenge, as a leakage, and say, how do we address it? Besides that, if central bank is in a position to print new money, there should be a justification. Let me say clearly, and I'll say clearly that people who advise President Weah to write to print additional money, it was a wrong decision. It is better to put in place a mechanism to ensure that there's confidence in the banking sector that people can bring back the money. Besides that, it is also important, if there's confidence crisis, that the central bank cannot give account of whatever money that have been reported, then they can go ahead and seek authorization from the legislature to print new money, which will be a standard set for that. So these are points that I can raise right now. But I have a question.
I have a question for you, Mr. Zoe, when you finish, just for you.
Yes, I'll take it. One of the challenges that we have right now is that why should we continue to believe in a cash economy? Why up to now the whole ECOWAS region had come up for a while, either trying to payment system, automatic payment system that you don't need to have 2-3 days to clear a check, and Liberia still face the problem. When do we really link it so that people will have confidence in their system that almost all of the commercial banks will have to issue out the Visa card for people to transfer? I got Echo Bank card with me here. I sit here and stay transfer with Echo Bank account. So what is it? What's the hold on that this institution, these regulations are clearly on the book? Enforcement become our problem. That's why I think that the technical efficiency of the bank need to be strengthened. It need to be, brought back as it was before, than having the political efficiency.
And this is just a quick
Alex,
question.
go ahead. Ask the question, please.
And Mr. Weah too can also chime in to this question after you respond. My question: you said that you're against the printing of the money, and new money, and you think that they should put mechanism in place. My question is, who's going to put this mechanism in place? Who do you expect to, and who's capable of doing so? And the second follow-up question is, we have a dual currency. We're one of the first few countries in the world, I don't know of many more anymore, that have dual currency. Anybody with any kind of at least two brain, not even 5 senses, can see that if you have a dual currency, you're always going to have problems, because people are going to pivot from one currency to another in ways that are going to affect the economy. That's what country has currency. In fact, the country currency is a national security thing, and that's why most countries don't allow foreigners to operate the banks, except for Liberia. So who are going to put this policy in place? They said, you tell me today, so I can look at that person up and see what have they put in place in their entire life, that somehow now will have the ability to do it in Liberia.
Debu.
Yes.
Let me just come in before you come in, please.
Okay.
Let me give you my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
The central bank, I believe, can do that because everything that has to do with our monetary developments should begin with the central bank. So the central bank should be able to make those recommendations to the authority. Like I said before, it's like the supremacy of political decision making has never been controlled in our country. And because of that, politicians always feel that they can do anything and work with it. The decision as to who makes the recommendation should come from the central bank. Now, the next thing is for de-dollarization. There was a study done at the central bank with timeline and everything in that study. It was presented to the president. But why was it not implemented? The economists, the technicians did their job and they made the presentation. I still remember. Why was it not implemented? It is not the liability of the technicians or the economists. We should be holding our politicians responsible for not implementing it.
With all due respect, I wouldn't, because according to the central bank chapter, that the board of governors of the central bank, and I can read it here, is responsible for implementing the following: maintaining the value of the domestic currency and
who appoints the director, Alex? Who appoints the director?
The board of directors are appointed by the president, but they're independent once by the president of Liberia.
By who?
God. Okay, hold on. Let me finish reading the statement, then you can ask a question.
Go ahead, please.
They're supposed to pursue an appropriate interest and exchange rate policy, safeguarding the integrity of the financial sector, issuing notes and coins to meet the demand for the general public, conducting economic analysis and publishing economic and financial studies. So, from what I'm reading here, the governor, the executive governor, and the board of the central bank already have the power, not the president.
No. Alex, Thomas, wait. Thomas, wait.
And this is for the article. Hold on, this is for the Constitution of Liberia.
Wait.
All right.
Wait. Alex, you have to come back in line with this because obviously we're talking about our Liberia. So we all know full well that who controls these positions is not what is written down. Because if you do certain things like that, you are an employee that is assigned. So you
shouldn't take the job. They shouldn't take the job, because I can tell you this much.
But I can tell you this much. They're just saying, but they are saying that they make the recommendations. That's what their job is. They have to, and then when
I've never heard NAPITRE or the board of governors at the central bank come out to the Liberian people and said, we do not want to print more money. It's the same central bank that is following the agenda of the president. It's the same central bank that is on the quote-unquote president economic team, headed by the finance minister. Hold on. When in fact the central bank should be independent of the government.
Right.
That picture was in a meeting with the IMF executive, the IMF mission in Liberia. Samuel Tua spoke lengthily on the situation about Liberia getting into the program. They turned the microphone over to NAPITRE. He's the governor of the central bank, and what he said, everything the finance minister said, I agree with it. What central bank governor in the world?
No,
what does that tell you?
No, William, and you got to watch this, and that's why if you are appointed to a position, you can resign. You can resign.
Well, Thomas, no, wait.
Hold on.
Thomas, let's give it to Thomas. Thomas has been in the trenches here. So let's give the man a chance to respond to that one. Thomas, go ahead.
Are you guys allow me to talk?
Go ahead, Thomas.
You can publish your findings, these things on your website. Okay, somewhere that we can go and read what you are doing. If you come up with a finding that tell us that no new money needs to be printed.
Right. As an economist, you have the freedom. I have published things against the government.
We got a president, so we can't do anything.
But Thomas, please answer. Please, we will give you. Please.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
No, go ahead. The question was, you said recommendations, you'll make recommendations. And the idea here is we are saying is that why aren't there constant resigning going on? Because it seems like no one is heeding to your recommendations.
You agree with me, William? That's a culture in Liberia. Even when it's obvious that you are liable, you are found guilty, it's obvious that you are doing this thing. For example, take the case of our current situation. There are many persons who should be resigning, but we are asking why people are not resigning. If people are not resigning, then the president should take action against those people. They are not resigning. The president is not taking action. It's just you don't understand it. If you make a recommendation and the president doesn't accept it, it doesn't warrant your resignation anyway.
But Mr. Weir, I don't understand from you here is this. Mr. Red, you're a central banker. You're a central banker.
Hold on, Alex. Hold on.
Alex, what I'm saying is this. There will always be a reminder. And that's what is happening in Liberia. From the time we started making recommendations on economic diversification and value addition, those recommendations were being made regularly. Why the political authority can't accept them?
Are they published?
Mr. Red, the question I want to pose to you again. Here's an error here. You said recommendation. I'm reading from the Central Bank of Liberia. Their mission and objective is not just to make recommendations, but to implement, maintain the value of the domestic currency and external reserve, pursuing appropriate interest and exchange rate policy. It didn't say they should be making recommendations to the president. That's the job of the finance minister and the president economic council. The central bank should be implementing these things.
Yes, the central bank should be going ahead.
Hold on, Thomas.
The central bank does not operate in the vacuum.
So why not?
No, because the central bank operates along with other economic actors, or policy makers. So the central bank will have to talk to all of them.
That's the problem, and that's corruption. That is corruption. Okay, by the central bank.
That's the corruption.
What you see is the central bank is cahooting with the government of Liberia, and that's why they're not there to represent what the Constitution has given them power. That's collusion.
Alex, I don't accept it.
Okay,
that's what it's for.
I don't accept
it. Thomas, wait.
Ahead,
Thomas, Alex, wait. So I think this is very important where we've come to, right? This is very critical because we've just kind of put a hard pin into a situation that is causing Liberia not to move forward, right? And that is this, that within our own culture, in our own political contextual stuff, regardless of whatever it is that we call it in Liberia, from the outside looking in, there's a great fear, because the fear is that the politicians are impacting of something that's supposed to be very independent. That is very scary. That is very scary.
And just to respond to your question, and that's that we want to find solution. And that here, if we want to move forward and build our country, then we can't have pussycats to be leaders in central banking policy. We need people who will stand up for their professional integrity and people who will do the right thing. If you're not doing the right thing, you have no excuse to come out and say, "Oh, I'm the central bank governor, but this is the culture." Then resign, because you're doing more harm than good. If you don't know the weight of the position, you should not take it. And I see that all the time, and we give excuses for that. I have written very, very damaging thing. I've called people out because what? I respect my professional integrity as a financial analyst. And so when I give a view, whether to a public corporation, JP Morgan, or any other company, I give him my objective view, whether or not, somebody does not like it or not. So we need people who will stand up for their profession, people who should be central bank governors and technocrats to come up and publish their report, whether or not the president accepts it or not, or do not take the position. That's my point.
Thank you,
yeah,
Alex.
but you can also take the position. The only person who ever resigned is...
Hold on, Thomas. Let me, we want to wind this thing down. So let me hear from Mr. Zuo on this. Mr. Zuo, the point here is central bank should be autonomous. And people are there, crying that, hey, we told the president, but he didn't do it. What did you do? And how did you make your case to the Liberian people? Actually, I'm tired of hearing that.
Yes, I think, frankly speaking, I think one way I agree with Ellis, because one of the things we need to do, once you are given the opportunity to serve, you should serve with level of commitment and authority that you have in that field of study. I told you before, there's a regulation from the central bank and from the FIU, a Financial Intelligence Unit, on the issue of actually cash transaction and suspicious transactions, some of these things. These are written laws passed. And it means that you can be charged for money laundering. Any amount that's above $10,000 cash should not leave
from the country.
Mm-hmm. But people will still have to move these cash, not through the banking system. It's still, these are things we need to fight against. It is not possible that with the authority given the Central Bank of Liberia, the independence, the autonomy they're talking about, is to say, it's not that Central Bank is not part of the government. At least let me make that correction. It is part of the government, but your decision making should be more independent in line with your function. That means the supervision of the commercial bank supervision in terms of money supply and whatever interest rate decision made, it will be made independent by the board of governors. So that's why they need to be watching the flow of everything. Every time other institutions you're talking about, Ministry of Finance, yes, the fiscal side will be challenges, but the monetary side need to make sure that they are monitoring, trying to see what the commercial banks are doing. What are some of the hurdles the commercial banks are faced with? Is there, right now as you speak, commercial banks themselves, even the reserve given the central bank, there's a doubt whether they can still get the reserve back. So these are some of the things. So when there is a challenge to restore confidence in the banking sector itself, then the central bank is under its own authority. So I think if the president happened to call and say, I don't think it's the right thing. President will not call and say, you're bringing money. The central bank governor should say no. The money that is here, the request will have to come from finance ministry based on the budgeted amount, and they should be in a position to look at the authority, approving authority before spending money. But if it's just done that, oh, bring money and taking money, then the bank is under its own credibility.
Thank you.
And I also have problem with the banks sitting down without actually, it's good for them to, first of all, they're doing well to publish the exchange rate. And it's also good for them to be publishing some of the transactions, let's say reports from the commercial banks and their standing. It's also important for the central bank to also make public the interest rate to the public and why it's changing it. So these are things, the publication, the reporting aspect got to be there. I'm still seeing this challenge we have now, and we are having Liberia. If no check, we don't put check to it. Liberia is already rated under the money laundering law. We are already going to red. And once we get into red, all the remittances will not go to Liberia because banking systems are thinking that, okay, there's money laundering going on. We need to post up, the central bank need to take its authority. I'm glad that they have appointed and confirmed a new central bank governor. And according to the profile, he's compliance and risk officer. He should be in the position now to look at the supervision aspect of the bank, the internal audit aspect of the bank, so that the bank can restore confidence. It's confident. The public should trust the bank now.
Thank you, Mr. Zua.
Thank you. Thank you. So Dennis, we're going to be moving in. First, listen, we're going to continue this. Whether we have a Christmas break, then we'll continue this. This is a very heavy topic. So we're going to continue this on our next show. For our viewers and everything, I know you guys are not seeing this, but the comments are flying in.
Mr. King and Mr. C, I'm waiting here for 15 minutes. When I talk, you said, talking. I let you talk for 15 minutes quietly. So you see, the thing is, I'm an only child. I'm a person that is not funny.
Because you are giving 10 minutes to talk.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
You are losing for 10 minutes. You spoke for 10 minutes.
No.
Oh my God.
Listen to me. I'm an only child. I'm aggressive because I had to fight alone.
Good.
Because I wanted to learn how to fight and beat people. Okay? So, listen to me. Y'all been talking for 15 minutes. But as soon as I come for 2 minutes, so
that's why we need you at the central bank.
No. When I don't fight, I just want to make a point. When I don't fight, I get nothing in my life.
Okay.
You see, like, you won't let me talk again. You see, stop me from talking. For 15 minutes, I didn't interject. I listened quietly. I went back upstairs a fresh cup of coffee.
And I suspect it was intentional because you were planning to come back.
Baby, I've been sitting down here. Yeah, okay, listen to me.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, we're going to conclude. So
Now my time is cut off. I don't have the opportunity to say what I really want to say. But listen.
No, you will say it in your closing comments.
You see, in my closing comments, time again. All you guys have been talking for 15 minutes. You didn't stop me, Mr. Zoom talk for 7 minutes. They haven't been talking to me. That's him talking to me. I'm so sharp. Okay.
Thomas, you see what we're going through here? Now I understand the situation at central bank. I understand when the president come in, you're in a tough position. You see?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Jackson, go ahead. Go ahead.
All of my views are written. You can go to my website, www.samuelpjackson.com. I haven't put anything there in 2 years, but I've done a lot of research on. In fact, Mr. Zuo, I'm not a development economist. I come from Wall Street. I have an MBA. Okay, my only economic courses I took my 2 undergraduate degrees in banking, and I have a graduate diploma in international economics and banking. I went into development economics because there is not a developed financial architecture in the country where my skills. I work for Drexel Brenham Lambert. I work for Chase Manhattan Bank. I work for Bank of America. I work for Wells Fargo. Okay, I work for Credit Suisse. What I did for Drexel Brenham Lambert, we raised money. We made what we call junk bonds, which are not investment grade bonds. The boss, Michael Milken.
Jackson, let's come back to the topic.
I need to explain this to you.
No, I get it. That's why we have you on the show.
You don't want me to talk.
No, we respect your
LBDR president.
We respect your background. That's why we have you on the show.
Let's have LBDR as a president. President LBDR.
No. John Davis is doing a good job.
Oh, there you go again. You love to get last week it was September 12th. You talking about John Davis doing a good job. The 10th been around since 1960 until ECOWAS came and started spending in the county before FBDR could open branches in Buchanan. Are you kidding me? This man couldn't even publish a financial report. I wrote a publication. You call me. So please, don't go with the commendation for these people. I know you can solve for them, but please, these are the people.
Okay, listen to me. Let's look at the independence of the central bank. It's extremely important. Liberia is the only country in the world I know where monetary policy is controlled by the executive. The independence of the central bank. Monetary policy should be the exclusive domain of the board of governors of the central bank. They control monetary policy. A monetary policy is not independent of the executive. You don't have monetary policy because what you have is a mismatch of incoherent policies that has driven us to where we are today. The second thing is, Mr. Red would disagree with me, but I've been to that. I was in the central bank for 30 days. That's 3 months ago. I've talked to the people there. There's no technical depth in our place. If you look at the central bank annual report, it is the same central bank report in the same format for 20 years. It hasn't changed. Financial development, export test, composition of GDP. The world has changed. We're going into a digital economy today. When you tell the world that the capital adequacy ratio of the banks, okay, I was in setting guidelines, Basel 1, Basel 2, or Basel 3. And you tell us, say, that the banks combined asset, 701 million among 9 banks and 93 branches. You don't have a banking system. It is not even a good credit union you have in Liberia. The financial products are supposed to grow the economy, like equipment leasing, like mortgages, okay, real estate financing, okay, even good trade financing. It's not available in our country. So when y'all be talking about banking, I laugh at y'all. It's not even a good what do you say in the ghetto? What do they call it in the ghetto when there's somebody loan shark? It's a loan shark. It's a loan shark.
Pawn shop.
Yeah, it's a pawn shop. That's all it is. And then they require you to have 110% collateral value. So I mean, your real estate. There are no unsecured loans in the banking system. How can you grow an economy? People, small manufacturers that don't have real estate to go and hypothecate the real estate to get a loan. You don't have a bank. And then Mr. Thomas Red, they can't sit down here. They call themselves central bankers and they talk about a banking. There's no banking system in Liberia to talk about. You're joking. If you want to run a growing economy, fix the financial architecture.
Well, you have many over now.
Yeah, I finished with y'all, man. Anything y'all want to do,
No, Mr. Jackson, don't mind those people. We're going to get money for Wall Street. When we get and all these people out, we're going to open our investment bank. Don't mind that.
Thomas, I want you to know, Thomas.
They will never allow us to open it to be like Ken Ofori after with data bank in Ghana. They will not allow me to open my stock market.
I'm listening.
Yeah, I just want you to wait 1 second. 1 second.
They will never allow me. They will never allow me. Because
Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jack.
Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jack, can I take me for you guys?
Thank you. So, gentlemen, listen. We're gonna continue with this. Something that I want to say, and we're gonna go to everybody for the closing remarks.
So you be
but something important for next week. We want the people who are listening to tune in. A few things we want them to think about: internet, mobile money, policies, our governance, and the autonomy. And I want to say that all of these things, how do they relate to the operation of our central bank and the constraints? So once again, it's internet. We want to look at internet, mobile money. We want to talk about policies, governance, and autonomy. So next, we're going to be tuning in to hear more on that. And also for Thomas in Liberia, just having you on and having this dialogue and this conversation, and you can clearly see how what we perceive and what we believe the central bank should be. It's not what it is right now, and there are some challenges there. But definitely, it's not a question on the person that is there. But these are some good, heavy, thick conversations that we need to be had. So thank you to all our viewers, listeners, and I think we'll give it to Depu. Is it Depu or Alex? Next person for closing remarks. Who want to go?
Me.
Okay, go ahead, Depu.
Okay, but for me, I think we were discussing about the independence of the central bank. One problem that is glaring, that is affecting us now and contributing to the depraved states of the economy, is that we have abrogated a law. The central bank, in less than a 2-year period, you've changed the governor, you've changed 2 governors. In fact, there's a 3rd governor in 2 years. Even if you're to be running your private company, where you change managers in succession, you should anticipate challenge in terms of learning curve. And the next thing that there is that there will be some challenge in terms of output delivery. So that's the first thing that overall should be of a concern to Liberia. I think that's one major problem we are faced with right now. with the insecurity of tenure, which is something that the government made a decision on. Those are some of the contributing factors. If people feel insecure, especially so the governors, board of governors and the deputies know that they can be fired and transferred anytime, it becomes difficult for the independence of the central bank to be strong. So that's one reason why we are having the problem we're faced with today. And having said that, there's a need now for the national legislature to look at some of these constitutional arguments carefully, because to change central bank governor because of political reason, it is not helpful. It affects the monetary arm of the entire country. The next thing that I will say to Mr. Jackson that while it's true that you're looking at the former of the central bank report, annual report, I will still say that the central bank has a lot of strong technicians in the offices there. Technicians can do their work, but the policy maker, the decision maker will have to definitely, publish the work in the way they want it. And I'm quite sure that if these guys at the central bank, the technicians who have been there for years with the requisite skill, some of them have gone out of Liberia and back and still working in the banking system, have been given the opportunity. The central bank can be a very vibrant bank, and they can even say expand beyond Monrovia. Some of the supervision challenges they're having is that they only have Monrovia alone, commercial banks that are operating outside and other financial institutions operating outside of Monrovia, there's no supervision. So there's a need for the bank to come over robust plan and make sure that going forward, since they have confirmed the central bank governor, there should be a way that we can go back to status quo, that the tenure will be sustained instead of changing people when there's a political crisis. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much to all the guests and the panelists. I think this was a very, very enriching conversation about economics, which is something that a lot of people in Liberia don't want to talk about, including the people who manage the economy. So what an irony, if you a finance minister or financial manager or bank governor or president of a bank, you want to be on financial media because you want to promote your policy. Like Mr. Red just said, you want to let the public know. So why they shy away from it, I don't understand. But, a lot of good points were raised, but I will still go back to the fundamental problem of Liberia. Up until I think last week, I stayed away from politics. And the reason was that I think we have a lot of deficit in economics and finance that, we don't need, we need people more in finance and economics in Liberia than we need in politics or in any other area, because that's where we're hurting the most. But I come to realize that there will be no economics if you don't have a stable country. If the country continues to deteriorate, if unemployment remains the way it is, if the currency continues to devalue, we are headed towards calamity. That's just the reality. There would be no Liberia as we know it today. That Paul Collier did a very good book called The Bottom Billion. He did a extensive study through Africa. And he did a correlation between countries that economy fell by a few percentage points, and they were all prone to social and economic and sometimes war. This is not a joke in Liberia. Liberia thinks that the next president would deliver us, but I don't think this is the case. We have to do better.
We're having a challenge right now with Alex thing. So Dennis, could you please mute him just in case he comes back on? I want to pass it to Thomas.
Okay, thank you, William. First of all, I want to say thanks to the panelists and our viewers around the world. The discussion was so enterprising. There are many things before us that we need to take serious. You will agree with me that currently the macroeconomic situation in Liberia is not favorable. all the indicators are not in our favor. Exchange rate, inflation, and growth. We need to organize ourselves, go beyond what politicians will do, and do our best with it. Another issue has to do with confidence in the banking system. It is because people don't have confidence in the banking system that we are experiencing hoarding. It means that something is not connected. So therefore, politicians should moderate the powers they have and listen to the professionals. There are issues that we have parked prior before printing and all of that. Those issues should always be revisited in our national discourse. For example, what is the status of the 16 billion? What is the status of the 25 million? We need to resolve all of these things. They will bring confidence in our economy. But if we just brush them aside, people may not have confidence in us. I agree we are not at our best, at our optimum. We should strive to get there. One final thing I can say is that at every ministry or agency, even including my central bank, the Central Bank of Liberia, where I come from, there should be career civil servants who are not threatened by politicians or the executive governors, who will be there to present the issues as they are, because they are above being threatened by either the president or the governor. These people will say it rightly, but people who are subject to dismissals, they will never talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Once again, very much appreciate that. Dennis, before we go to closing, for all our viewers, this is the Liberian Economic Forum. Next week, we'll be continuing with this same topic. There's a lot of things we could not get a chance to talk in depth that I wanted to hear the thoughts from Samuel Jackson and also from Thomas Ware. And some of those things was internet, how the lack of internet impacts mobile banking and convenience. Is that why people are using the SUSU more often? Is that why the interest rate for the SUSU is a little bit higher? Policy, governance, autonomy. So next week we'll be talking about that a little bit more, and I'll be sure to give our good man, Mr. Jackson, a little bit more time. 10 more seconds. Dennis, I pass it over to you. Thank you so much, Thomas. We hope you can come in next week, please. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So no more time for Mr. Jackson, or he has to fight again?
No. He got time, bro. He got time.
So Mr. Jackson, your closing comments.
No, but basically, look, I love this discussion. I'm a man of action. I don't believe in the too much talking. Okay, I believe that the macro challenges, we have to fix them. And this whole thing about we got so many macro challenges, we can't fix them. We've been trying to fix them for 172 years. This is nonsense. We haven't fixed them because the political elite always want to ensure that they get what they want and everybody else is poor. Senate, you go to Liberia anytime, all the ministers, people sitting to their fences every day, waiting to get in, begging to pay for the children's school fee. That kind of power is very intoxicating. You know, who want to give up that kind of power? Okay, they call the president, no matter how young he is, everybody calling him Pa. Everybody worshiping him. So power is an aphrodisiac. It's something that is intoxicating within the Liberian. Right now, we have enough Liberians, excluding me, because at my age, I don't want to be involved in too much analytical work. We got Liberians all over the world. Let Mr. King, let Mr. Ja, let Mr. Alex. You know, these people, you put them in a room for 10 days and they can come up with an economic recovery strategy paper for Liberia that will be funded by the international system. I've been begging the Liberian government. The president won. You ain't got no money. Why are you not doing a donor conference? A donor conference that you can justify because Ebola did a lot to undermine the growth that we're having and all the institutions in our country. They have institutions, okay? So we need to go and raise at least $1 billion from the donors to put into that economy. The other thing is we need to fix our governance system. Capital development for Liberia has to be goal number one. The diaspora is the most educated, it has the most amount of money. Any government that counterpart Liberia that doesn't use the diaspora scales, diaspora money, something is wrong with you. So I just want to close on that note. I don't have to be involved. My mouth too big. I'm too cantankerous. I'm too confrontational. But get other people who are not confrontational. Because if my mouth too big, I can talk too much, at this, at that, I'm only one out of 4.4 million people in the country. Get the rest of the people.
You are criminalizing people.
Yeah? Get the rest of the people so that all I have to say to you fix the country, so let me go retire in Marshall. I beg you. That's all I want.
Thank you. Thank you. We want to thank all of you for your time. We really appreciate this. Was a healthy discussion, and we want to continue that. And we thank all our viewers. Continue to share the show, continuing to invite people. And please don't stay away from it. This is a business and economic forum, and we are inviting all Liberians. In the future, we're even going to do something bigger than the TV show. So please, if there's any topic you want us to talk about, please don't feel free to volunteer your ideas, send us a text message or inbox us and tell us some of the things we're talking. We also want your feedback. This is the Christmas season, so don't forget our Christmas on you. We also want to say that tomorrow at 3 p.m. we're going to be hosting Miss Menen, that's a Liberian artist, a female artist. She will be here at 3 p.m. Then at 6 p.m. we're going to have some of those who have been fighting for the DED program, Mr. Abdullah Kiatamba, Council Member Winsford Russell, Mayor Wilmot Collins, and others will be here at 6 p.m. to discuss, because it's being signed into bill now, so we want to get all the details and what we need to do, what our next steps will be. As William said, we're going to continue on this topic next week, all things being equal. And then next Sunday, please don't forget, we Focus on Liberia is going to have a year-end show. So all of the Focus on Liberia panelists, the hosts, co-hosts, correspondents, and everybody on Focus on, you're going to see them all in one spot, presenting on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, my name is Dennis Jai, and I want to thank you all so much on behalf of the management of Focus on Liberia.
We are Liberians.